They say your life can change in a single phone call. For me, that call came at 2:17 p.m. on a Tuesday. I was in the middle of a presentation at work explaining our fourth quarter projections to a room of silent, suit-clad colleagues when my phone buzzed once, twice, then a third time. I ignored it. But when it rang again for the fourth time in less than 5 minutes, I apologized to the room and stepped into the hallway. "Is this Claire Morgan?" The voice on the other end was tight, professional. "Yes, this is Officer Ramirez with the Madison Police Department. I'm calling about your husband and daughter. There's been an accident." The words that followed tore the ground from beneath my feet. "Your husband, Ethan Morgan, was pronounced dead at the scene. Your daughter, Lily, is in critical condition. We need you to come to Madison General Hospital immediately." I don't remember how I got there. I don't remember screaming or how my coworker Rachel found me collapsed on the hallway floor. She would later tell me she drove like a maniac, running every red light to get me to the ER. What I do remember is the sterile light of the hospital lobby, the way my legs shook so hard I could barely stand, and the emptiness that echoed louder than the chaos around me. Ethan was gone. My Lily might be next. Dr. Conrad, a neurosurgeon with soft gray eyes and a voice like worn velvet, met me in a private room. "Your daughter has sustained a traumatic brain injury," he explained, as if I could comprehend the litany of medical terms: cerebral edema, elevated intracranial pressure, induced coma. Words I wasn't meant to understand. All I could grasp was that my little girl, my bright, curious, dolphin-obsessed 9-year-old, was somewhere behind those cold doors fighting for her life. I asked to see my husband. A social worker named Teresa gently led me down another hallway, her tone calm but heavy with practiced sorrow. "Just to prepare you," she said, "Ethan won't look like you remember." She was wrong. He looked exactly like I remembered, except for the stillness. His skin had gone pale, his lips pressed in a line of peace, or maybe finality. I gripped his hand, half expecting him to open his eyes and say something ridiculous about the swim meet Lily had been so excited for. But he didn't. He was already gone. I broke. I collapsed across his chest and sobbed the way a person sobs when they lose the life they had built and the future they had envisioned all in one breath. I begged him to wake up. I told him I couldn't do it without him, that Lily couldn't either. When they gently pulled me away, I called my parents. They answered on the fourth ring. "Claire, can this wait? We're at Jake's birthday lunch. Ethan is dead. Lily's in surgery. I couldn't get more out. My chest caved under the weight of the words." "Oh, that's terrible," my mother said after a pause. "But we've already rented the restaurant. Can we talk tonight?" That's when the second wave of heartbreak hit. My parents, Helen and Charles Morgan, had always made their favoritism clear. Jake, my younger brother, could do no wrong. They bailed him out of debt, cleaned up his messes, and catered to his whims. But me, I was the reliable one, the afterthought. It didn't matter that I had a high-paying job in finance, a solid marriage, a beautiful daughter. What mattered was that Jake had a new startup idea and needed support. What mattered was that his birthday was worth more than my grief. They didn't come, but Megan did. My best friend since high school, she arrived within an hour, carrying a bag of clothes and a fierce sense of purpose. She brought me coffee. I didn't drink food, I didn't touch, and strength I didn't know I needed. She called Ethan's parents in Florida, arranged for them to fly out despite Mr. Morgan's advanced Parkinson's. She handled things my own parents should have. The first 3 days passed in a fog. I barely ate, barely slept. I sat by Lily's bedside, memorizing the hum of machines and the rise and fall of her chest. I held her tiny hand and whispered stories of Ethan about his ridiculous pancakes and the blanket forts he used to build, complete with load-bearing walls made from broomsticks. Ethan was an architect by passion, a dreamer by nature. He saw the world not for what it was, but for what it could be. He once built Lily a treehouse with a spiral staircase because princesses don't do ladders. He recorded every swim meet, every science fair, and once drove 4 hours to surprise her at a summer camp talent show. He was her compass. He was mine. The accident report was clinical and heartless, 1:42 p.m. A red Ford F-150 driven by a man named Ronald Hensley, 46, ran a red light at 48 miles per hour. Blood alcohol level, 0.23, nearly 3 times the legal limit. The impact was direct, crushing the driver's side of Ethan's Honda Civic. Death was instantaneous. Lily had been in the back seat, buckled in, but no child is built to withstand that kind of force. Broken ribs, fractured femur, punctured lung, swelling in the brain. The injuries were unimaginable, but she was still here, still fighting. I lived in that hospital room for weeks. Time lost meaning. The outside world faded into something distant, unimportant. My world narrowed to a recliner beside Lily's bed, the rhythmic blip of monitors and the quiet instructions of nurses who never made me feel like I was asking too many questions, even when I asked the same ones over and over again. On day 4, Dr. Conrad sat beside me, hands folded in his lap like a man about to deliver news no one wants to hear. She's stable, he said, watching me closely, but that doesn't mean she's out of danger. Her brain needs time. The coma is protecting her from further swelling. The next 72 hours are crucial. Crucial. That word rang in my ears like a warning bell. Lily looked impossibly small beneath the hospital blankets. Tubes snaked from her arms, her nose, even her scalp. They'd shaved part of her hair to place a cranial monitor. My daughter, who once refused to leave the house without glitter clips and mismatched socks, now lay motionless, a ghost of the girl who used to make her pancakes look like jellyfish. Ethan's parents arrived the next morning. Mary and George Morgan, both in their 70s, held each other like they were clinging to what little remained of their world. Mary wrapped her arms around me the moment she saw me, and for the first time since the accident, I allowed myself to cry in someone's arms without apologizing. "We're here now," she whispered. "We'll stay as long as it takes." They stayed with friends in town while we made plans: Michael's funeral, Lily's treatment, everything I was too broken to organize on my own. Meanwhile, my parents remained noticeably absent. A card arrived 5 days after the accident, generic and signed without so much as a note. "Thinking of you. Love, Mom and Dad." It might as well have been sent by strangers. The same day, Megan found an attorney. "His name is Derek Flynn," she told me, placing his card on my lap. "He specializes in wrongful death and catastrophic injury cases. The man who hit Ethan was drunk. He had prior DUIs. There's going to be a settlement. I don't want you to deal with that alone." I stared at the card but felt nothing. At that point, money felt like a cruel joke. There was no price for a husband's life or a child's suffering. But Megan was right. There were things that needed protecting, even if I couldn't summon the strength to care just yet. Derek came the next day. He was calm, efficient, and kind in a way that didn't feel rehearsed. "We'll pursue the insurance company first," he explained. "The driver has a high limit policy, likely due to his prior convictions. The company will want to settle quickly to avoid a lawsuit." I signed the papers without asking too many questions. My trust in Derek came from Megan, and that was enough for me. While legal wheels turned behind the scenes, Lily remained still. Nurses named Lauren and Jake became fixtures in my life. They explained procedures, adjusted pillows, and somehow always knew when I needed 5 minutes of silence or someone to talk to about something, anything other than Lily's vitals. "We're seeing small signs," Dr. Conrad said on day 12. "Reflexes, brain activity. It's slow, but it's there." Slow was fine with me. Slow meant she was still fighting. On the 13th day, I was holding Lily's hand and reading her favorite book, Marina and the Moonfish, when I felt it. A twitch. A single twitch in her index finger. I froze, waited. Then it came again, this time stronger. Her hand curled slightly in mine. I hit the nurse call button so hard I nearly broke it. Dr. Conrad confirmed what I dared to believe: Lily was beginning to wake up. "This is the start," he said. "It's going to be a long process." Waking up after a brain injury doesn't happen in one moment. It unfolds over days, sometimes weeks. I didn't care. For the first time since that phone call, I felt hope, not the kind you whisper in the dark, but the kind that lets you breathe again. By week 3, Lily's eyes began to flutter open. Her awareness was patchy at first. She grimaced during injections, followed movement with her eyes. Her first full day of consciousness came with no fanfare, just a weak squeeze of my hand when I asked if she knew I was there. 1 squeeze meant yes, 2 meant no. It became our secret code. A week later, I asked her something simple. "Do you want me to keep reading this book?" 1 squeeze. I asked another question. "Do you know who I am?" Her tiny hand tightened around mine. 1 squeeze, yes. I buried my face against her palm and sobbed. On day 25, the insurance company made its first formal offer. Derek arrived with a folder full of numbers and explanations. "It's substantial," he said. "More than I anticipated. Enough to cover years of therapy, specialized education, modifications to your home if needed. You and Lily would be secure." I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. Later that night, Lily gave me 3 squeezes, over and over again. I didn't understand until the 3rd time. "I love you," I whispered, placing her hand against my cheek. 3 squeezes again. I held her all night, and for the first time, I let myself believe we might be okay. But peace didn't last long. The next day, my phone rang. It was my mother. "Claire," she began, her tone unusually warm. "Your father and I were talking, and we think it's time we came to see Lily. We've both been so worried." I blinked at the phone in disbelief. "I mentioned last night that the settlement offer came through," I said slowly, the pieces clicking together. "Yes, well, we're glad you'll be financially stable. This family has been through so much. We're all affected, you know." That familiar performative concern crept into her voice. It wasn't about Lily, it never was. I didn't say yes, but I didn't say no either. They arrived the next afternoon with balloons and a stuffed koala bear. My mother wore lipstick, my father wore a blazer. They looked like they were attending a PTA meeting. Lily didn't react to them at first, but when my mother leaned in to whisper, "You'll be better in no time, sweetheart," her heart monitor blipped faster. I gently intervened. "We're not promising full recovery yet," I said calmly. "We're taking it one step at a time." After 10 minutes of awkward small talk, my parents asked to speak with me privately. I declined. Anything you have to say can be said here. Still, when I stepped out to get tea, I overheard them. "We should be entitled to something," my mother was saying. "The settlement is for the family. Jake's business is finally getting traction. This could be the boost he needs." I stood in the hallway, my blood turning to ice. They didn't come for Lily. They came for the money. I stood outside Lily's hospital room with a paper cup of tea going cold in my hand, listening to the muffled voices of the two people who had given me life now scheming to take from the one I was fighting so hard to save. "Claire doesn't need all of it," my mother was saying in that clipped reasoning tone she used when she was about to steamroll someone. "She's got the house, the job, and now the settlement. If she just shared a portion—" "She won't, not unless we push," my father replied, his voice low. "We'll bring up Jake's business idea again. Present it as a family investment." I didn't wait for more. I stepped back into the room, my face a mask of polite neutrality, the same one I used in board meetings when someone tried to mansplain market trends to me. "Lily's getting tired," I said softly, moving to her bedside. "She needs rest." They stopped talking immediately, and I could tell they knew I'd heard them. My mother smiled too quickly. "Of course, dear. We'll give her some space. But let's plan to talk soon, maybe over dinner at your place." I nodded once just to end the moment. After they left, I sat beside Lily and held her hand. "You okay, sweetheart?" I asked. "Two squeezes." "No." "I know," I whispered. I didn't like it either. That night, I called Megan. "They're after the settlement," I said bluntly. I overheard them talking about Jake's startup, something about dog walking apps. There was silence on the line, followed by a sharp inhale. "You're kidding." I wish I was. "What are you going to do?" she asked. "Whatever it takes," I answered, watching Lily sleep. They don't get a cent, not one. They came to my house a week later, right on time, 7:00 p.m. sharp. Jake came to, fidgeting and avoiding eye contact. The night nurse was upstairs with Lily, giving me space to deal with this. My parents brought tea biscuits. My mother placed them neatly on the table like a peace offering. "Let's talk," she said, all sugar. "I'm listening," I said, motioning for them to sit. My father began. "Claire, this settlement, it's a significant sum. We understand it's primarily for Lily's care, and of course no one disputes that. But tragedies like this affect the whole family. Everyone is hurting." My mother nodded as if that pain justified what came next. "We think a reasonable solution would be to allocate a portion, say 50%, to the rest of the family." I stared at them, stunned by the gall. 50%. My father cleared his throat. "Jake has a promising new venture. With some seed money, he could really take off. You know how hard it is for young entrepreneurs. And we," my mother added, "have been thinking of retiring. Maybe even buying a vacation home where we could all gather. A place for healing." I set my teacup down carefully. "And Ethan's parents, do they get a share?" My mother's mouth tightened. "Well, they're not blood relatives, dear." That was it. I stood and walked upstairs. I needed something they couldn't ignore. In the closet behind Lily's old-school art projects and a stack of Ethan's architecture journals, I pulled out the album I'd started in those long hospital nights. I returned downstairs and placed 2 photographs on the table. The first showed Ethan in his casket, peaceful, unmoving, his once laughing face stilled forever. The second was of Lily in the ICU, tubes, wires, monitors, her face swollen, her body broken. I let the silence do the talking. "This is what 50% of my loss looks like," I said quietly. "This is your son-in-law dead while you were at Jake's birthday lunch." I pointed to the second photo. "And this is the other 50%. Your granddaughter, 9 years old, fighting to live while you were helping Jake prepare for a job interview." My mother gasped, her hand trembling over her mouth. My father looked away. Jake went pale. "The entire settlement," I said, my voice firm and calm, "will be placed in a medical trust for Lily's care. Every penny." My mother's composure cracked. "Claire, listen to me." "No," I interrupted. "You listen. True family doesn't show up only when there's money. True family brings you coffee at 2 a.m. and sits with you in hospital waiting rooms. True family doesn't wait for a payout to suddenly care." My father looked up. "You'll regret this when you're overwhelmed and need us." "I'd rather struggle alone," I said, "than watch you treat Lily's tragedy like a financial opportunity." Jake stood looking lost. "I'm sorry, Claire. I didn't know they were going to ask for that much. I just thought—" I shook my head. "You thought wrong." They left without another word. And I didn't cry, not until I returned to Lily's bedside, sat in the recliner, and let the silence settle around me. I had lost Ethan. I had nearly lost my daughter. Now I had lost my parents too. But the truth was, I hadn't really had them in the first place. The house felt different after that night. Not because I'd changed anything, but because I had finally drawn a line in the sand. I had told my parents out loud and without apology that they no longer got to dictate my life or invade it for their benefit. The photo album remained on the coffee table for days after they left. Sometimes I stared at those pictures, the ones I had used to draw a boundary, and I wondered if I'd gone too far, if showing them Ethan like that had been cruel. But every time I looked at Lily tucked into her hospital bed, her eyes fluttering in that half-aware haze of recovery, I remembered why I did it. Because no one was going to use her pain for their profit. Lily's recovery continued slowly but steadily. By week 6, she could sit up with support and was able to string together full sentences, though her words sometimes came out slow, hesitant. "Mom, my legs feel like jelly," she said one morning. "Wobbly jelly." "They'll get stronger," I said, brushing her hair back. "You're stronger." She smiled weakly. "Do I still get pancakes if I can't flip them?" "Always." Her therapists were amazed by her spirit. Her occupational therapist, Jenna, said Lily was one of the most determined patients she'd ever worked with. "She gets frustrated sometimes," Jenna told me privately, "but she doesn't give up. Even when she's tired, she pushes herself." "She gets that from her dad," I said. "He never did anything halfway." One day, as Lily worked on buttoning her shirt without assistance, she looked up at me and said, "Do you think Daddy sees me?" My heart squeezed. "I think he sees every bit of this, and I think he's cheering the loudest." Lily nodded like she believed it, like it mattered. The financial settlement was finalized in early autumn. Derek handled all the structuring, working with a specialized trust attorney and an accountant who spoke in reassuring, concrete terms. The majority of the funds would be locked in a medical trust, accessible only for Lily's direct care, rehabilitation, adaptive equipment, education, and long-term support. The rest would be dispersed over time with a small monthly stipend to help cover expenses not directly related to her therapy. We wouldn't be rich by any flashy standard, but we would be safe. For the first time since the accident, I could breathe. I sold Ethan's car, paid off the mortgage, converted our downstairs guest room into a therapy-friendly space, complete with handrails and an adjustable bed. Our house, the one we'd once dreamed of filling with children, became a sanctuary for the one child we had fought so hard to keep. Ethan's parents visited once a month, staying in that same guest room. Mary brought homemade soup, and George taught Lily how to play solitaire with oversized cards. They never asked for anything, never hinted at expectations. Their presence was enough. One crisp October afternoon, Lily and I sat on the back porch wrapped in blankets. She was in her wheelchair, a bird guide open on her lap, binoculars resting across her chest. "That one," she said, pointing at a red flash near the fence. "Is it a cardinal or a tanager?" "Let's see." I lifted the binoculars. "Bright red black mask, definitely a cardinal." She smiled. "Daddy would have called it Sir Chirps-a-lot." I laughed. "Or maybe Captain Feathers." We had started naming birds the way Ethan used to, giving each one a ridiculous royal title. It was our way of keeping him close. That moment, so quiet and warm, felt like a kind of peace. Not the absence of grief, but the presence of something stronger: connection, memory, survival. Then the letter arrived. I found it in the mailbox, nestled between a utilities bill and a catalog for Halloween costumes. The return address was familiar: my parents. I stared at it for several minutes before opening it. Inside was a simple birthday card addressed to Lily. The front featured a cartoon dolphin and the words, "Hope your day makes a splash." Inside was a gift card to her favorite bookstore and a handwritten note in my mother's tight cursive. "Thinking of you. Love, Grandma and Grandpa Morgan." No demands, no conditions, just a card. The envelope also contained a 4-page letter addressed to me. I sat at the kitchen table after Lily went to bed and read every word, my hands trembling. "Dear Claire, I don't know if you'll read this. I wouldn't blame you if you didn't. What your father and I did was inexcusable. We have no defense, only regret. The photographs you showed us that moment in your living room changed something in me. I've replayed it 1,000 times since. While you were burying your husband and sleeping in hospital chairs, we were planning vacations and talking about startups. We failed you. We failed Lily. And for that, I will be ashamed for the rest of my life. We don't expect forgiveness, but we want to try to become the kind of people Lily might someday be proud to call grandparents again." Jake has also been doing some soul searching. He hasn't spoken to us in weeks. He called our behavior disgusting. He was right. He started volunteering at a children's rehab center, trying to understand what you're living. If you're open to it, we'd like to attend Lily's birthday next month. Not to talk about us, not to fix everything, just to show up. To begin, if we're allowed. With remorse, Helen, I sat there for a long time staring at the letter. Part of me wanted to crumple it up and toss it in the trash. But another part, some small ember of compassion I hadn't been ready to extinguish, held me back. People could change, couldn't they? Wasn't that what I'd been telling Lily? That healing took time, that growth came from pain. Maybe they deserved a chance to try. I called my mother 3 days later. Lily's birthday is the last Saturday of the month, I said. It'll be small, a few friends, Ethan's parents, Megan's family. You can come. But it needs to be about her, not about the past, not about fixing things. There was a long pause. Thank you, my mother said quietly. We'll be there, on her terms, on yours. Lily's 10th birthday dawned with a soft October sun and the scent of cinnamon in the air. I stood in the kitchen, icing a cake dyed ocean blue. Her current obsession with marine life had dictated the entire theme. There were dolphin streamers, seashell party plates, and tiny gummy sharks waiting to top cupcakes. It wasn't the kind of party Ethan and I had imagined before the accident. But it was what Lily wanted now. Intimate, familiar, gentle. She sat near the back porch window, wrapped in her cozy blanket, watching as Megan and Ethan's parents hung decorations in the yard. Her wheelchair was newly adjusted for comfort with a cheerful octopus pillow strapped to the back. Think they'll like it, she asked, nodding at the party setup. They're going to love it, I said, brushing a bit of frosting off her cheek. But the real showstopper is the birthday girl. She rolled her eyes in that particular way only she could manage. Mom, stop. The first guests arrived around 2:30, Lily's therapy friends and their parents. They came bearing hand-drawn cards and small gifts, the kind that meant more because they were picked with careful thought, not price tags. Megan's family followed, carrying a giant stuffed sea turtle and a tray of mac and cheese. At exactly 300, my parents arrived. They came alone, walking slowly up the path like visitors to a church, quiet, hesitant, unsure if they belonged. My mother carried a large gift wrapped in dolphin-themed paper. My father looked older than I remembered, his shoulders more stooped, his eyes searching the yard with caution. Lily was sitting under the shade of the maple tree Ethan had planted the year we moved in. When I saw her spot them, I knelt beside her. Grandma and Grandpa Morgan are here, I said gently. She nodded once, calm but unreadable. My parents approached, stopping a few feet away. Hello, Lily, my mother said. Her voice was soft, unsteady. Happy birthday, sweetheart. We've missed you very much. Lily stared at them for a long moment before replying with the brutal clarity only children can deliver. I got hurt. My dad died. I needed you. The silence that followed was suffocating. My father lowered his eyes. My mother blinked quickly, her hand trembling as she set down the gift. You're right, my father said, finally kneeling beside her despite his aching knees. We should have been there. We made a terrible mistake. I'm so sorry. Lily studied his face as if deciding whether the words were real. Okay, she said simply. Do you want some cake? Mom made it look like the ocean. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet, but it was something, a beginning. The party continued surprisingly light and filled with laughter. The other children helped Lily string paper jellyfish on the fence. Megan's youngest son read a fact book about sea creatures aloud with unnecessary dramatics that made everyone giggle. Ethan's parents watched quietly, smiling with a mixture of pride and grief, their hands always just slightly clasped together. My parents stayed back at first, but when Lily motioned for them to join her at the snack table, something in the air shifted. My mother complimented the frosting. My father asked Lily questions about her therapy, listening attentively when she answered, sometimes haltingly, sometimes in bursts. Then just when I thought the moment might pass without acknowledgement, Jake arrived. He came alone, holding a modest gift bag and a Tupperware container of his famous peanut butter cookies, Ethan's favorite. I hadn't seen him since the night they all tried to split Lily's future like a pie. I met him halfway across the lawn, unsure what to say. I don't expect a warm welcome, he said. I didn't want to let today pass. I nodded slowly. You can give the gift to Lily. That's all that matters today. He walked up to her, crouched down, and offered the gift bag. Happy birthday, kiddo. She opened it. Inside was a necklace with a tiny silver dolphin pendant. It's nice, she said. Thanks. I'm sorry, Jake added softly, for everything. She didn't say anything, but she didn't look away either. After the cake blue frosting, just as promised, I sat beside Lily as the sun began to set, casting golden light through the trees. She was tired, her body slouched in the chair, but her eyes were bright. That was a good birthday, she said. Yeah. She nodded. They came. They didn't ruin it. They just were here. That's all you wanted, wasn't it? I said, for people to just show up. She looked at me serious again. You always show up, Mom, even when you're tired, even when you cry at night and think I don't hear. Tears pricked my eyes. You're too smart for your own good. Daddy used to say that too, she whispered. In the days that followed, my parents reached out again. Small gestures. They asked if they could attend one of Lily's physical therapy sessions just to understand her progress. A week later, they suggested we try a family therapy session with a counselor who specialized in estrangement. I didn't say yes immediately, but I didn't say no either. We were all trying in our own broken ways. One afternoon, Megan and I sat on the porch watching Lily nap inside. "Looks like you have a new version of your family forming," she said, sipping tea. "Patchwork," I replied, "frayed in places, but stitched with love." I smiled, maybe, or at least with effort. Megan looked over at me. "Do you still feel like you're doing this alone?" I glanced at the window where Lily slept curled up like she had when she was 5. Inside on the fridge hung a drawing of Ethan, a stick figure version of him standing beside a sea turtle. "No," I said, "not anymore." The calendar didn't need to remind me. I felt it in my bones, in the weight of the sky, in the silence that wrapped around me when the wind rustled through Ethan's jacket still hanging by the door. It had been 1 year, one full year since I lost the man who built our daughter forts, danced like a fool in the kitchen, and kissed me goodnight like he always meant it. Lily remembered too. She didn't say much in the days leading up to it, but I could see it in the way she curled into herself a little more during the quiet moments, or how she stayed silent longer at the breakfast table. Her speech had improved steadily, but on that week her words slowed again. Not from regression, just from grief. "I want to go to see him," she said, 2 days before the anniversary. "I want to walk there." My heart twisted. "Are you sure?" She nodded. "I can do it. I want to do it." So we planned a visit to the cemetery. She insisted on walking from the car to Ethan's grave with her walker. Her therapists had cleared it, though, with caution, reminding her and me that she'd tire quickly. But I knew better. This wasn't about strength. This was about something she needed to do for herself, for him. It was early afternoon when we arrived. The sun shone through thin clouds, casting long shadows across the carefully trimmed rows of headstones. I carried the flowers. Lily carried her determination. She moved slowly, every step measured, her arms tight on the walker grips, her legs shaking slightly, but she never once asked to stop. When we reached the stone Ethan's name carved deep into smooth granite, she paused, breathing hard, her face flushed but proud. "I made it," she whispered. "Hi, Daddy." She placed one hand against the stone, her fingers tracing the letters of his name like she was memorizing them. I laid the bouquet down, sunflowers his favorite, and sat beside her. For a few minutes we just sat in silence. Then Lily spoke. "I think he'd be proud of us," she said. "I know he would," I answered, swallowing the lump in my throat. "You've been so brave." "So have you." I smiled. "We do it together, right?" She looked at me, eyes wise beyond her years. "We take care of each other." That evening we didn't plan anything big. We didn't want to. Instead, we baked Ethan's favorite cookies, chocolate chip with sea salt, and watched an old home video of him helping Lily build a birdhouse. His laugh filled the living room like it always used to. Lily laughed too, a little louder than she needed to, like she was trying to reach him wherever he was. Afterward, we lit a candle. We didn't say a prayer or offer speeches. We just let the flame dance in the quiet. I looked at Lily. Her eyes reflected the light full of memory and something else, peace. "Are we going to be okay?" she asked softly. "Just the two of us?" I thought about that for a long moment. "We're going to be different," I said truthfully. "We'll always have this hole, this missing part. But yes, we're going to be okay. We have each other, and people who love us, and we're building something new. Like a new family." Exactly like that. A week later, my parents joined us for a family therapy session. It was awkward at first, polite silences, long pauses, too many. I meant to, and I should have. But there were no outbursts, no denial, just a willingness to sit in the discomfort. That was something. Jake started joining us for Sunday lunches. He brought takeout cleaned up after dinner and once helped Lily build a Lego model of a deep-sea research station. She called him Uncle Sharkbait, and for the first time in forever I saw her laugh with him like she trusted him. We weren't healing in straight lines, but we were healing. On a quiet Sunday evening, Lily and I sat on the porch swing Ethan had installed the summer before the accident. The swing creaked gently beneath us as the sky turned from gold to rose to gray. "Mom," Lily said, leaning against my shoulder, "what makes a family?" I thought for a moment. "Family isn't just who you're born to," I said. "It's who shows up, it's who stays, it's who loves you without conditions." She was quiet for a while, then she murmured, "Like us." Exactly like us. We sat there until the stars began to appear, two silhouettes on a swing, built by someone who still lived in every heartbeat of our story. We didn't talk about the past. We didn't fear the future. We just sat together side by side, steady and whole in our new kind of family. Grief never ends. It changes, shape shifts in weight. Some days it sits quietly in the background, letting you laugh and breathe. Other days it returns like a wave, uninvited, overwhelming, impossible to ignore. But what I've learned is that grief and love aren't opposites. They're connected. One exists because of the other. Every time Lily reaches for my hand, every time she smiles with Ethan's lopsided grin or names a bird after some absurd royal title, I'm reminded love doesn't die. It evolves. It finds new ways to stay with us. We've created new routines now. Mornings start with therapy and end with bedtime stories about ocean explorers and adventurers. Some days are hard. Lily's muscles ache. Her words falter. She misses her dad more than she knows how to say. But we face those days the way we faced the accident, the hospital, the silence, together. Lily still asks about Ethan, about the before, and I never shy away from those questions. We talk about him daily, what he built, what he dreamed, how much he loved pancakes with too much syrup. She remembers him, and she knows she is made of the best parts of him. Sometimes I think about that night when my parents stood in my living room asking for half of what was never theirs. And sometimes I still feel anger. But mostly I feel sad for the people they were in that moment, people who didn't understand the cost of love until they saw it carved in stone and wired to a machine. They're trying now. That matters more than I expected it to. They visit, they listen, they don't ask for anything. Jake shows up too regularly. He started working at the rehab center full-time, inspired, he claims, by Lily's resilience. She lets him push her wheelchair sometimes, though, only when he promises to race and lose. We're all learning how to show up, how to stay. So if you're watching this and you've lost something, someone, or you're carrying a hurt that's shaped your whole world, know this. You are not alone. You may not get back what you lost, but you can build something new, something just as meaningful, maybe even stronger because of what it withstood. Family isn't blood, it's not obligation. It's the people who hold your hand in the dark, who sit beside you when words fail, who show up without being asked. It's the daughter who fought her way back from the edge. It's the husband who still lives in every kind smile and memory. It's the friend who held you together when the world tried to tear you apart. It's you still standing, still breathing, still loving. And that in the end is more than enough. What would you do if your family abandoned you in your darkest hour? Have you ever had to rebuild your life from the ground up? Share your story in the comments below. If Lily's strength inspired you, please like this video, subscribe for more stories of resilience, and share it with someone who might need a reminder that healing is possible even in our most broken moments. Thank you for being part of our community. You're not alone here.